You are now listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc, sharing insights through real, honest, and practical ways to improve your communication and relationships. Featuring your hosts, Dr. Pamela Kreiser, Meredith Edwards-Nagel, and Teighlor Polindo.
Happy Mother's Day.
To you too. Happy Mother's
Day.
Man.
Oh my. Mary, this is your second?
It's technically my third because my child was born on Mother's Day.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. That was a big start.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't good at first, but getting better.
I'm trying to think. This is my 29th Mother's Day. Wow, that sounds really like a big number. How about you, Tay?
Sixth?
Yes.
He is 5, so how many is that?
Then if you're pregnant, does that make it 6.5, 7?
Oh, no. I did comm, not math.
Yeah. Simple math.
I have a question for each of you.
Okay.
Do you think you're on your phone too much? And do you think it affects your interaction with your children at all?
Oh, just come out swinging.
My bone to pick with you is that you gave us this homework in the first place, so the guilt only just increased. Yes, I think I am. And what I hate about it is I'm constantly comparing myself in motherhood to my phone usage to people around me, whether if I know them or not. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
I don't want to be on my phone at all. In my opinion, it's like too much because I want none of it. Mm-hmm. But it's not really realistic. So it is something I'm very conscious of. And I go through seasons where I'm better and seasons when I'm worse. But it definitely is something I'm very aware of. Because you'll get on your phone to do something you needed to do. Mm-hmm. And then somehow you got distracted and some other notification or whatever came up. Mm-hmm. So now you're just on your phone. And my kids instantly are like, what are you looking at, Mom? And they want to see. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, just dumb shit. Thanks for the reminder. Let me get off because I don't want you looking at this. So they keep me accountable.
Oh, that's good. I am certain I'm on my phone more than I should be. I don't interact with my children and my phone often at the same time just because they don't live with me. But I've had them say it. Don't ask me a question and look at your phone. I've had them say that to me directly, which is unfortunate.
I think it's also, for me, like just having the phone out. Like we've tried to make a really conscious, when we had dinner alone before a kid, you could put your phone in your pocket or on the table upside down, all that kind of stuff. And now we're like, why does she need to see this thing while we're having a meal together? Let's remove that from sight.
Yeah.
As a way to not look at it.
Yeah.
Or you look at the Apple Watch if you really want to know what it was or who's calling so you don't have to pick it up.
True.
Honestly, I use it more now to keep myself from being on it in front of my kid.
So that's the workaround, the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Did you see this cartoon that was published in 2019 by Michael Lunick? He had this cartoon that kind of was instantly famous. He's an Australian cartoonist. And it's a picture of a mom on the phone, and the baby is laying on the sidewalk. And it has a poem that says, "Mummy was busy on Instagram when a beautiful bubby fell out of the pram and lay on the path unseen and alone, wishing that he was loved like a phone."
Ooh. The image is so good too. It's a hunched neck mom, just keep going, and the baby just sad.
Baby wishing he was loved like a phone. Brutal.
Yeah.
So we should differentiate two things that are related to this topic. You might remember we did episode 15, which is called What the Fub. And that was on phone snubbing or fubbing. So you might know that term or remember it from that. And that's where we get on our mobile phones or smartphones rather than with the people who are present in front of us. Now, different from that is what they call technoference. And a lot of people think they're the same thing. Technoference is where it could be any device. So it's bigger than fubbing. Fubbing's really the phone snubbing. But technoference is interfering any interpersonal interaction or time that would be spent due to some kind of technological device.
So we're using phone as the device of choice in this.
Yeah. I think the phone is the most accessible thing because we carry it with us. Whereas mostly my laptop stays in my office. It wouldn't be something I would be distracted elsewhere by. So anyway, those are our definitions.
So you had us read this beast of information that I was wondering how to think about, but in this conversation of our phone use or media use in front of your child, do you ever feel like Teighlor and I have talked like this before, where you have these conversations with other mothers in your life and you're like, do you ever just really need something for yourself and you do it, but then you feel guilty for doing it, but then you know you need to do it, so you feel guilty for feeling guilty that you feel guilty about doing it, but then you try to do, you know what I mean? Like you go down this whole of chaos in your mind, and then you do the thing anyway because you're stuck and you just keep doing it. I feel like I've done this on my phone. I pick it up to use it and then I get distracted and then I'm like, whatever, I'm being terrible anyway. I'll just keep being terrible.
But part of this article that we read, this study, the hypothesis, the higher guilt, the lower satisfaction with being a mother role, like being in that mother role, right? So the more guilty you feel, the less you're enjoying motherhood. And I wonder, like what you're talking about, Mer, do you feel that way when it's something that you don't like? Or is it, like I've never felt guilty for going to the gym.
Oh, I have. I get over it faster because I know it's actually better for me rather than being mindless.
So Teighlor, just to break that down, so you don't feel guilty because it's like investing in yourself or yourself as a healthy mother? Is that the thought?
Yeah. So if it's something that I view as positive, like exercise, like I've never felt guilty about leaving my kids to go work out. But if it's something I don't necessarily respect or really deem as good for me, then I tend to feel more guilt about it.
Okay.
I was wondering about that in reading this too. You know, some people out there that are like, I don't think it's that big a deal. And they just keep it moving. And you're around them going, this is a lot right now.
Okay, so the title of the article that we read was called Do You Love Your Phone More Than Your Child? The Consequences of Norms and Guilt Around Maternal Smartphone Use. And it's by Wolfers et al. And we'll put it in the show notes so you can check it out. It's an academic study.
Yeah, it's a long read.
I felt like I was in your class, which was great.
I felt like I was giving you homework in my class.
I know.
Very satisfying.
I had a moment reading it where I was like, oh my gosh, Teighlor and I need to meet in the library. Excel sheets.
There were moments I needed to pull out my dictionary. I was like, wait, what does that mean again? No, I really identified with that higher guilt and the lower satisfaction of motherhood. And that reminded me of like my first year of motherhood, which Mare, you walked out with me. Both of you did actually. But just that's what put me back in therapy actually was I was not enjoying motherhood because I felt so guilty that I was doing such a poor job. And so I was like, the work to be done was like, okay, maybe you're not perfect. You could not do well in all these areas, but can you acknowledge where you are doing well? And that I think really led me into respecting and enjoying the role. When you feel good about what the work you're doing, you enjoy it so much more. And if you just feel like shit all the time, of course you're not going to like it.
So let's talk about a couple of things that drive up that guilt according to the study. So what they looked at, it's just two kinds of norms. They looked at injunctive norms, which are perceptions of the moral side of it, what would be considered appropriate. So it's like the moral agency side of that. And then the other side of the norms are descriptive norms is what they talk about. And these are perceptions about the prevalence of the behavior in other people. Now let's think about both of those related to the smartphone use. So injunctive is what I think should be done regarding smartphones, right? Those are those norms. So what's the right thing to be doing regarding smartphones is what that is. And then descriptive is, do other people really hang around on their smartphones? And how much do I perceive that other people are doing it? And the question they were saying is, what causes the rise in situational guilt? And they said it was the first one. It was these injunctive norms. What is the moral rightness of being on a phone or not? And I think there's different perceptions depending on your age and all the different factors.
If you have no problem with phones and you think that's a great tool, then you don't have any guilt around this, right?
That's what I thought about when reading this. Yeah.
So ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not me.
I don't relate with that. And I don't know that being ignorant and having a blissful time in that space, the results maybe or the effects of your ignorance may not be blissful.
So what they found was the higher the norms were that you had about what was appropriate and right and good, your moral judgment side, that contributed more to situational guilt. And then the more guilt you had, like you talked about, Teighlor, then that affected your reduction in satisfaction with the mothering role.
Yeah. I do wonder about that because I see these moms and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're doing the easy way out, but maybe they're enjoying it a lot more than I am.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know.
I would say culturally, it does appear that we have a growing higher level of acceptance of smartphone usage. With each year that passes, it seems like it's more and more accepted.
I see what you're saying. So socially, we're okay with it more. Oh, yeah, you can look at your phone mid-conversation with me.
Or
like
have
a
the
few
phone
years
out
ago.
on the table. Yep.
Yeah. On a date, if somebody did that like a handful of years ago, I'd be like, wow, asshole.
Yeah.
You're really enjoying this date with me. Now it's like, yeah, if somebody texts me, I want to be able to get back to them in the middle of talking to you so you feel so important.
Yeah. So the thing that's funny about that you two can laugh at is that I've taught college all these years, and every year my college students will say, we're not worried about ourselves. It's our younger siblings that are going to be the ones in trouble. Except for now, I've taught 36 years, so they're a lot older now. And I'm like, they always say it's not our generation, it's the one behind us.
Yeah.
Of course. Pass it on.
I think we have that with smartphone usage and acceptance that we say, oh, we're handling it, but we see the future mothers, they're going to be the problem.
I'm more thinking like, what's going to happen to the kid?
This is a good
scared.
question. There's a study that came out that was around the idea of phubbing from the Pew Research Center, and they reported that nearly half of all teens said their parents were at least sometimes distracted by their phones. Now, these are not younger children, they're teenage, right? So they said around 46% said parents were on their phones when they're trying to have a conversation with them. And it's interesting, half of the parents admitted they probably spent too much time on their phone in general. So there's some disconnect there. But I found that kind of interesting that the kids are reporting that about the parents.
Yeah. Sad.
One of the things that I read in preparing for this episode, it does appear that the message received is going to matter. So it has a lot more to do with whether the person perceives this as a rejection or as a I'm not interesting enough to talk to, so that's why you're texting or on your Instagram or whatever. And for those interruptions that don't appear to be rejection, they don't appear to have the same level of consequences on the person that's being phubbed or techno-feared with.
Yeah, I feel like there's a time and a place sort of thing, right? Out with my friends, my husband or whatever, and someone's watching my child, I'm a little bit more prone to see if I got a message to check if it's about that kid. And if it's not, and then try to quickly go back. Usually people are understanding of that. I don't feel socially like it's not accepted in that place. It's just an example. Versus just being alone with my child and scrolling social media. Wasn't I talking to you guys about this recently? That I was at a kid, like whatever you pay for these kids to play area. And this kid kept taking stuff from my kid. And the mom was just on her phone. I was like, oh, don't do that. Get out of here. I'm taking things from your child because they're being rude. I don't know. Moments like that. And I was thinking, this is socially unacceptable for me. This is a very negative feeling I'm having about you being on your phone. And I'm supposed to be like just some stranger helping you with your kid. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, but that relates back to the injunctive norms.
Yeah.
Because you have a sense of morality around what's the right thing to do with the parenting and the phone use.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure I have the same thing. I'm not saying that's unique to just you. I think the study shows that too. That was a very strong influencer. So apparently that other person didn't have the same moral, right?
What I walked away with this article, because it was just not super encouraging, but just the story around guilt and shoulding on yourself. Because I don't want to change my thoughts on phones. I want to stick with trying to use them as little as possible. But I don't like that I have guilt around it when I do need to, or just if I do use it. So I felt like the work to be done was really more about how to handle guilt and how to handle shoulding on yourself.
That's interesting you say that. So we had the perception of the morality was driving the situational guilt, and the situational guilt is driving the lower satisfaction, right? So the more guilt you had, the more you didn't perceive the phone as a useful coping mechanism.
Sure.
The article, they were talking about the idea that the phone could be good because you're using it for a good reason, like to get resources or to check on the babysitter or like these different things. So then how do you manage the guilt is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, but also it did make me question myself, like, when am I using this phone? Mostly it's, I think, for useful things. I got to get something done. I need to communicate. I can't tell you how much time I spend looking at my calendar. Is that normal? That is my most used app. Like, I never in my life, I don't know. That's what I spend most of my time on my phone.
Why is that? I can't remember. Wait, no, I'm supposed to remember. And I have to look at it daily. I have it on like the lock screen.
Yeah.
I have an alarm go off every day, so I remember to check my calendar so I don't miss anyone's birthdays. Or
you have taught me to do this.
I
have missed a couple things, and recently I thought Teighlor would set an alarm for her. She would not snooze it either. I mean, she would not cancel it. She would only snooze unless it was done. So it's obnoxious every, 9 minutes?
Yes, exactly.
So I did. Recently, I had a couple things to do, and I thought about you, and I was like, she'd be proud. And my husband was like, if this alarm goes off one more time, I was like, I have to do it by the end of the day.
But it made me turn in and say, if I'm frustrated with my kids or I'm annoyed and I'm stressed, am I turning to my phone as the solution? And just get introspective about it. What am I actually using the phone for when it's not for something truly productive?
Yeah, but I'd argue that sometimes the use can be coping tools to exercise different coping strategies, like social support was one thing they noted, information seeking, or just plain old distraction. And I would say that those things aren't just inherently by themselves just negative and to feel guilty about. Because sometimes I'll be frustrated with my kid, or she'll do something funny or ridiculous, and so I call my sister or my other friend that's mom, and we have a laugh at it or something. Or I'm like, what would you do with this crazy tiny dictator? Like things like that.
She's going to listen to this eventually.
I know. So
the dictator will listen to this.
I know, maybe. Can we edit that one out? No, she's the best.
No, I think that's an interesting question. And maybe that's part of managing the situational guilt is saying, okay, so there's the guilt that's going to come when I'm using it for not a good purpose, but trying to figure out what is our actual use of it. And I know there's apps and different things that you can set things on your phone to make it so it's harder to open.
Block site.
Time limits.
And I think that is always interesting as a challenge for us. I have not done it, but I've thought about it when we were preparing. I thought, do I know how much I actually unlock my phone each day? We've talked about it being several hundred times a day on average.
Yeah. I actually downloaded Block Site after reading this. I was, what do I need access to these couple social media things for unless it's at this time and this time? And so I haven't started it yet, but I'm going to do it.
But do you feel guilty for not starting it?
No, I'm glad I feel good about learning about this. I feel great that you have sent me back to the library with this meat and potatoes of a article. But I love it. I think it all goes back to like stuff we talk about all the time here, which is, I have felt incredibly guilty reading this. It upsets me. It bothers me. Sometimes at the end of a day, I'm like, oh, I just ruined that day with my kid. Or like, remember when I was sick the first month or so of my pregnancy and Teighlor texted me, using texting as a social connection. Okay. And it was like, your kid's not going to be a sociopath because they're watching a little more TV right now. Like, I was just like, I'm ruining her. You spiral sometimes, at least if you're a person like me, maybe you do. And yeah, I like that this is just a reminder to think about, what are the norms I put on other people or the expectations I put on other people around me, and really just focus on myself.
The other thing that was highlighted to me is if you do see something that you want different in your life, like you can change it. You have the power to do a lot of things. And there's been seasons, especially when I'm pregnant, that it's like a higher usage. But there was a time when I was like, man, how come I can't go to bed without watching a screen? I want to change that. And it took a couple weeks, but I changed that. If there is really something you want to see a difference, don't forget the power that you have to make that change if you want to.
So related to that, one researcher was giving advice about how do you change the pattern. If you're normally getting a dopamine hit off of being on social media, how do you replace that habit and still get the dopamine hit? And they said that's how you change the habit effectively, So you don't change it to something that would not give you the dopamine hit. You change it to something that would. So they gave an example of, let's say your teenager doesn't like the fact that you're on your phone when you're asking them about their day or something like that. And you feel bad about it. And you want to change that. They said, go to a place or maybe go on a walk with your teenager or do something with your teenager where the phone's not there. So you can get the hit of dopamine from being in the live conversation versus having to rely on the smartphone for that dopamine hit. I thought that was an interesting.
Yeah. Exercise is like a big dopamine hit,
yeah.
isn't it? I always hear that exercise is like such a great replacement for these unhealthy.
That's what was so funny about you saying
habits.
you feel no guilt about that earlier, Taylor. Because I've
Never.
had to
I never
learn.
feel bad. Yeah.
I didn't think I would, and then I went into a season of having my kid and doing it and feeling like maybe it was more this, if this guilt makes sense. I had someone come be with my kid twice a week so I could do other things and work or whatever. But then I also would add on an exercise. And in the middle of that, I would feel guilty. Is this okay? Or is it okay to take this time for me? And it would only be like a 30-minute workout. It would take me like 10 minutes into it to let that go. And then just creating this pattern of that finally became this thing that was like, wait, no, this is not only amazing for me, it feels great. It releases all this tension. But yeah, that's what it maybe what it was doing. It was giving that same dopamine effect. I didn't realize it at the time, but yeah.
But I would make an observation just because I'm a little further into this mothering thing. There's a sweetness to what you both are saying a little bit. I'm not saying guilt is a good thing, but I hear it out of a place of responsibility. I'm trying to raise a thriving, respectful, normal human. And so I'm trying not to F it up.
Yeah.
Number
Say it,
one
just
goal.
express, Taylor.
We're trying not to fuck them up. No, it's, there'll be therapy, but we're trying to limit the sessions. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. But out of that, I think is where some of this guilt comes because we try to have a standard of what would be the good way to raise my child or what would be good strategies. And we're asking ourselves that question, the very thing that's going to promote guilt when we see it maybe departing from that.
So wait, speaking of this guilt, you were saying to us some information about what happens to kids if we do this too much or something. I don't even want to ask because I'm nervous, but is it going to increase my guilt? Like,
one of the things that I was interested in that wasn't covered in the main article, Do You Love Your Phone, was I was wondering about mothers of infants. And I was thinking, I think it would be a tempting filler for someone who's sitting with a baby all day. So I could see the Technoference challenge would be really high. So I did some research on that. They do experimental studies where the mom will do what they call still face. And still face is where the mothers, they won't show any emotion or responsiveness to their children. So think about like face-to-face interacting with an infant. You're like, oh, hey, and smiling back and all that. And then when they do the studies and then the mom goes to still face, the infant's mood drops really dramatically. And so
there's videos of this in some in like research. I think I've seen this.
They've done studies for this, but that sets us up for the newer studies they've done about phubbing with new moms with their infants. And they're saying that they'll be at play. And then they did this study where they said, then suddenly go on your phone. And they said it was very similar to still face, where as soon as the mom got on the phone, the mood of the infant dropped significantly. And what's worse is they said the infant had a harder time trying to get back to the happy mood after the cell phone interruption. Brutal. I'm not really surprised given the fact that these infants in the very early stages of childhood, they're studying nonverbal. So the cutting off of the nonverbal attention from the mother to the infant, obviously, we're not surprised that it had an effect. And I would extend it out to any parent, any caregiver, it doesn't have to be just moms, but just that interactive thing is going. And then now the infant clearly knows your attention is no longer there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that way if my husband pulls out his phone and we're talking. They start to believe the story that the phone is more important than them.
So then there was another study where they were analyzing children who were 24 to 42 months old, and those children were being read stories, and then they had the parent go on their phone in the middle of the story reading.
Sad.
Oh, I know. And what they were tracking were brain patterns. And when the parent or caregiver, whoever is reading to the toddler, they measure brain-to-brain sequencing, meaning they match similar to the toddler, which is interesting. As soon as the phone's there, the synchrony's gone between the brain patterning.
That's trippy.
It would seem pretty crazy to do that a lot to somebody if you're reading a story. I've never read a story to a little person and every time been on my phone. I don't think you'd always be on your phone, but I think it is an interesting study.
Yeah.
It's challenging. I don't have a problem when I'm outside of the home, like not being on my phone. Pretty actually hard to get a hold of, probably.
Yeah. I love that.
But my poor husband, if I'm gone, I rarely check my phone.
That's why I wear an iWatch. I only wear it when I had to go outside of the house today. That's the only time I wear it. I'm like, oh, that's right. Yes.
What he does now
funny.
is he just he find my iPhone because I can't hear the phone call. I don't see the text. And he sends the alert that someone is searching for your phone. That's how he gets a hold of me now.
Wow.
Wow.
But yeah, he's very clever. But it's when I'm at home. There's no set schedule. I have work I have to do, but it's just not the same.
Yeah.
And that is like my biggest challenge because I'll be on my phone much more if we're
Totally
not
relate
doing
with that.
something. That is like my biggest struggle, I think, in parenting is when I'm at home and we don't have something planned. And I'm like, oh, I'll use this time to get stuff done. Let me do my ordering. Let me do whatever it is, the scheduling.
It's not even necessarily social media. Oh, what do I need for I did that today. I was like, what do I need for the house? Oh, what size shoes is she wearing? Do I need to look at that? Oh, like what's running out here? And then you just have these apps open of whether it's like Amazon or whatever market order or whatever that you're doing. And you're like, oh, I'll do it while I'm thinking about it at the end of the day and then I'll order it. But then I realize how much
you
I've
have
been
all
on
the
it.
reminders around your home saying, oh, you're out of this, you're out of this. And so it's an all day thing. And I even have asked my husband, we've tried to set up subscriptions. Would that be easier so that you're not on your phone all the time? They're just automatic. But that doesn't work because then they just notify me all the time. It's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't need it. Now I do need it. It just takes up more time.
Oh my gosh. This item that you always buy is on sale. Like, okay.
But I even said to him today, if I move to the computer, if I do all my stuff on the computer, would that be more focused? And then it wouldn't be all the time. I really don't know what to do as someone who's in the home majority of the time with these kids. I have to get that stuff done. I don't have designated time to do it. It has to be done with them around at some point. But I have enormous guilt around this, and I don't know how to do it.
Me either.
I'm going to try office hours. That's my next step. This hour, I get all the ordering done.
Yeah.
Because that's what teachers do, right? You have a bunch of work to get done, but your set time in the classroom is very limited. Your actual work, planning and prepping and grading.
You're suggesting that I plan? Wow. I love that.
I happen to know you just a little bit.
It's true. You know a couple things. Yes. I think the other challenge of the mothering of the young kids is that they don't occupy their own time as well as they will when they're older.
Because if they're in the other room, quiet, safe, I could be on my phone and not feel that bad because they're not seeing it and I can get this thing done really quick that I need to order or whatever it is I need to get done and I can turn it off and give them my attention. But it is hard with toddler life where it doesn't ever stop.
No. And it's not always safe. When you said that, I was like, oh, if it got quiet in my house, I'm like, there's some paint can just got opened and we're painting the house.
And then you start to weigh, is it worth it? I don't know. If they're doing really well, I'll just clean up whatever it is later.
Oh, I literally did exactly that today. I gave her this fruit pouch thing. We're about to run out the door. Let me just clean this up really quick in the kitchen. I'll be right there. I could see her from where I'm at, but I look over and she just decided it'd be great to just pour it all over the floor and then stand in it. I was like, well, at least you were safe right there.
You're sticky, but you're safe.
Yeah. And then was mad because it didn't let her play in it more.
Yeah, of course.
No, I think it is a season. Yeah. Okay. And I think the idea of trying to raise responsible, good humans is something every mother in every era, even not the technological era. I think that's the challenge of all mothers. I can hearken back to a memory probably when I was around 5. The phones had to be connected by very long cords, right?
On the wall.
And my mom changed the regular cord out to one that extended all the way to each end of the house. But you would see it go through doors. You'd see it wind down the hallway. And we would literally follow the line. And there she's back in her room putting away laundry on the phone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh. I love it.
And it was
what a lady.
But that's the same problem. She would have the same problem.
Yeah.
Or maybe they had no guilt back then.
Did I not? They have no guilt back then. I felt like I was trying to ask about, you said there was some...
Oh, the infant study?
Yeah, the infant stuff.
When you're nursing, you spend a lot of time. Someone said like 400 hours, a lot of time nursing. And I used to think, oh, this is my time to be on the phone. But then I was noticing they were looking at me. It's like, okay, new rule. If they're awake, then I can't be on my phone. I have to make eye contact. So I was starting to notice that. I was like, oh, I'm checked out. And this little baby here is trying to like, hello, I'm alive. Pay attention.
Yeah, that's hard because I definitely used moments like that. I tried to be more balanced about it and if they're awake versus asleep. But like you can't hold it so they can't see it.
Yeah.
When they're small enough or they don't want to look at what you're looking at.
But they aren't, to Taylor's point, they aren't seeing your directed eye gaze at them.
Yeah, it's that blank face that you're giving them, right?
Still face.
And even eye
Still
contact,
face.
Right? Oh, yeah. But that also relates to the distance they're able to see, don't forget.
So be on your phone a lot the first couple of weeks and then cut it.
Only when they're sleeping.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Oh, man.
Dr. K, you were talking about your own kids, but what is it like now for you in a different season? You have adult kids, them on their phones, you on your phone.
I asked one of our children today about that and said, hey, we're doing this topic. Isn't that interesting? And he said, oh, you're hardly ever on your phone. So I guess it's interesting. And I was like, did I just win the podcast episode?
I think you got a gold star right there. That's amazing.
There's no competition here or anything. I love this. You started out the podcast asking how guilty Teighlor and I feel, and you end it saying that your kids have shown you that you're great. So we're done today. Happy Mother's Day. And
give it to you for 29 years.
I know. Yeah, you deserve it.
No, the thing that I would say in all seriousness, when I said about how your children, when they're younger, have a harder time occupying their own time, I think that's the big difference. I'm not expected to create their day, to introduce them to new ideas, to teach them how to do X, Y, and Z, which you're doing all the time, every single day as a lesson, 24/7, right? Whether it's how to be respectful or how to share or how to play or how to read or it's all these things you're working on. And we just don't have that. And so that permits me a lot of other time. I think the only time where I have made that mistake is where I'm in the live interaction and I'm not smart enough to recognize in that moment, hey, this is valuable. Stay in it. Don't do something dumb here. You have 20 other hours you could be on your phone.
Yeah. Good point.
And so that's the big thing I have to tell myself in this stage with adult children, because I have less frequent opportunities to speak with my own children. So don't blow it now.
Yeah, to round that conversation out, though, don't blow it now with my child now by letting them think that this thing is more important than them and that they would grow and think that I don't want to listen to them or know them. Because I haven't shown them a pattern of that for so long, maybe.
Or to value this thing and then they'll choose it over you later when you're begging for their attention.
Boy. Yeah.
So I've had a study that kind of relates to that. They talked about what are the things related to smartphone dependency. What drives that? Is it the modeling? Is it that you are on the phone all the time, right? And they said it was associated with a couple different things. One was modeling for sure, which we're not surprised, and what you just described. Another was parental burnout, which I could see.
Like needing a break. So you're like, we're watching a movie tonight. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I could totally see that. And I think that goes back really nicely to what you're talking about related to exercise and other things that we do to make ourselves healthy. And maybe that helps us in this whole topic to say, I got to keep my own health up because that's going to matter in terms of my wanting to cope on my phone or because I'm burned out, just get some relief. And if I'm not taking care of myself, would I be more prone to that cycle? And I think maybe based on what I read. So Meredith, you got to go back to your workouts.
I know. I don't know if anyone is like me like that, but I feel it. If more than 1 or 2 weeks go by that I haven't, even just like 20, 30 minutes alone, I probably go to burnout faster. And I'm like, okay, we can watch this show. I know myself when I get that out, that energy out, or that, whether it's aggression or the dopamine hit or whatever it is, or just the alone time to get my heart rate moving, I feel that I have more energy to resist these temptations or to use the tool for the tool that it is and not for just a scapegoat.
For me, I think I just reframed exercise because in my 20s, I exercised for a look and it wasn't until my 30s. Yeah, I start to see the purpose of it beyond that. And I just keep thinking, like, I want to be able to sit on the floor if I'm lucky enough to have grandkids, and I want to be able to hold them, and I want to be able to bend over. I want to be able to pick my kids up now. I think that's why I don't have guilt, is because I view it as very specifically for them.
Yeah. Investment.
There was a study about mothers, and the more they took care of themselves, exercised, and ate well, the better their children's health would be.
I believe.
It's really important. Taking any time for yourself can come with some guilt, but especially for something that's going to be directly good for them.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I get over it. I told you it only takes me 10 minutes.
That's good.
It's just that conversation we were having earlier where it's like, if I do this, well, then is that okay? And if that's not okay, then what's going to happen? And your mind does this whole like thing to yourself, and especially about the phone thing, where I'll end a day and I'll feel good about the day. A lot of times, I'm like, I felt balanced about that. Or it was okay the times that I was on it, and I didn't feel like I took that away from my child. And then some days, I have a harder day and I end it just like, why did I do that? Like, why did I use it so much to be distracted from her? But it's usually at home. It's usually often why I'm like, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Do something or be outside or plan something with other people or whatever.
Yeah. One other thing I would add to this conversation is mental health.
Yeah.
So one of the struggles that we had when our kids were very young was my husband traveled a lot, sometimes for 1 to 2 weeks at a time. By the Friday of the second week, you want to throw the children at him when he arrives and say, here, take your children. I'm done, right?
Yeah.
And we ended up changing the game on that, because I would say by not mental health, but at least my mood or all of that was pretty worn down by 2 weeks of no break with the kids, 2, 4, and 6-year-old or whatever. So what we started doing was, starting at noon on the day that he would come back, I would have a babysitter. And I would go and do me things. I would have lunch with a friend. I would see a movie. I would do whatever.
That's great.
And what that happened is that my greeting to him wasn't, here, take your children, because I've just been gone for 5 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling good again.
This isn't mental health. This is marriage health.
Oh, for sure. I'm like, hang on, wait. My husband has a work trip in a month again, and I'm like, I like this idea.
No, but it really changed the game, because I'd arrive 30 minutes before he arrived, and I'm all like back with the kids. Hey, how was your afternoon? And I like them again.
Yeah, that small break. Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, that's my tip from the old playbook there. Don't forget that a babysitter for your mental health could be a good thing too.
Or if you can't do that or pay for that, the friend at the park, or just get some good community in there, I think, for
Basically,
sure.
just lots of problem solving. We just need to come up with a lot of creative ways for it to be done, and you just got to find something that will work for you and your family.
Yeah.
I like that you said earlier too, if you have the power to change those things, if you want them to change. So I was just thinking about mothers and saying Happy Mother's Day to everyone listening, and that if you're tired, we are too, right there with you. And find a good mom friend near you and hang on to her.
Yeah. Happy Mother's
Day.
You two at the same time.
Always. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Please remember to rate, share, and subscribe to our podcast. And thank you for listening to Asking for a Friend.
Let us know what you thought of the episode. Our email is hello@afafpodcast.com. This show is for educational purposes only and is copyrighted. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. Thanks for listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc.